Hey guys, what's going on? Mike, Fieldcraft Survival in Fieldcraft HQ at Heber City. Here is the Landcruiser 100, my Landcruiser that I want to hype up. I'm not hyping it up to increase the market or reduce the market of inventory. I want to allow you guys to understand why it's important to use your everyday driver as your bug out platform. I don't care if you have a front wheel drive Honda Civic, whatever it is, you could make it work for yourself. Now, what I'm going to talk about is the loadout on the interior of this specific vehicle that is common to all, which is a military term, but it just means you should be using it in your Honda Civic. No offense to guys who own Honda Civics. I don't mean offense. What I mean is anybody, if you have an empty trunk, if you have empty space that you could put life-saving equipment, you should put it there. Let me put this in advance. There is going to be shameless plugs for Fieldcraft Survival because we address a lot of these problems, but this isn't a commercial, so there's going to be other equipment that I recommend. So let's talk about your med. All right, so med, this is our vehicle trauma kit that we have on our modular visor panel. The modular visor panel is a panel that goes on your visor, obviously, that allows you to rip away your med kit. This is a stop the bleed med kit with a Cat 7 tourniquet. Why do we put it there? When I was a contractor, when I was a special operations guy, we had to have ready access to this. You're not going to be reaching for this under convenient circumstances. Likely you're reaching for this because you yourself were in an accident, somebody in your vehicle was in the accident, you're a passenger, or you're treating somebody that you need to treat on the side of the road. So having access to this, meaning within arm's reach, is very important. So I have this mounted here on the passenger side to cut my view down. This is the first gen of this. The second gen is going to have general purpose and med pouches that are going to be reduced to allow you to see underneath the visor. But again, having medical equipment readily accessible for any kind of trauma is super important. Also, it needs to be adhered or attached to the vehicle in some way. Also, I have like mob armor mounts where I mount iPads, like I use lead nav and all these nav systems, and even in entertainment, I have the ability to see it in a heads-up display, and I like mob armor's capability because, mob armor is super expensive, but it's a good product and it's robust, especially for off-road applications. So I could be on-road on the highway, don't have to change anything, go off-road, and still be able to utilize the same equipment. Let's go to the back seat. Conveniently, Pearl is located here. My mobility pack, which is made by Fieldcraft Survival, is on the back of this. The reason I have it on the back of the passenger side is because if I'm driving, I could reach across and get life-saving equipment. If I want to reach in and grab this basic hemorrhage response kit, I can. In addition to that, I've added recreational, but also life-saving gear for cold weather. Like I have a sleeping bivvy for cold weather. I also have a jacket that I keep in the lower pouch, as well as my survival gear. My survival kit from Fieldcraft is in my pouch for survival, and I've added things to make it more robust, like a fire starter, a lighter, all these things that are in here to be able to keep my core body temperature warm. I do have SHEMAGHs wrapped around the back of these. What I recommend is if you have a mobility pack and you want to reduce your signature, one, tint your windows. I recommend that to everybody. You could also use a SHEMAGH and cover it, but I recommend everybody have a SHEMAGH. I don't sell SHEMAGH, so hit the SHEMAGH dealer on Amazon. They're like 15 bucks. Get a SHEMAGH and put them around your headrest. Because if you're trying to keep the dust out, if you're trying to protect yourself from exposure to the elements, if you're using it in survival to filtrate water, whatever it may be, it's a great survival tool that you should have. There's no reason not to. It doesn't weigh anything and won't bog you down. In addition to that, I have a YAKIMA rack, YAKIMA rack on top of this, which increases my capacity. So in this particular loadout, I have a 20 liter, or this is a 40 liter. This one's actually not for sale yet. We have an 80, a 40, and a 20 liter loadout bag. But this pack, I can load out on my back if I have to displace from the vehicle, but I can also keep all the gear that I need. I even have like a starter log for fire in this bag. Why? Because I have the capacity. Why not have the capability if I have the capacity? So load out your bags. I like the YAKIMA rack. I'm not a big fan of using rack systems to top mount a tent, even though it looks cool and a lot of people think it looks cool. It sucks to live in. They don't really retain temperatures, so it's not gonna keep you warm. The air typically blasts through there. I'm not a fan as well because my back can't take it. So I have to sleep outside, displaced from my vehicle, or even put down all my seats and sleep inside. So for me, it's not an option. For me, the best option is getting more capacity and putting more stuff, which is more capability. Remember, capability includes not only the equipment, but the training of the equipment, which is so important. Let's move to the back. All right, so here I am on the back of the vehicle. Landcruiser has a lot of space. It's a super big platform. Compared to my Runner, compared to the FJ80, it's got so much more room. So what I have here is a mobility bag center lined on the center headrest. That's for redundancy. That's more contingencies. That's my primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. That PACE plan, I want everything shook out and I want to have it accessible in the vehicle. That's also if I have a passenger and they're going to bug out with me, they have the ability to turn that into a backpack and bug out on foot as well. In this setup, I'm probably going to get rid of these seats. They're portable. They are easily removable. I don't see me having people, very small people, in the back of this just sitting back there. So I'm likely to do a setup from Goose Gear. I'm a big fan of Goose Gear's equipment. They make a portable system that I'm going to hard mount based on their mounting platform and have a kitchen drawer, have drawers for general purpose, and then have a fridge pullout. I'm a big fan of DOMETIC, Goose Gear, these high-quality overlanding equipment companies that have proven themselves in the industry. You're likely to see that in a build-out video later on, but with all that real estate and room, that's going to give me the capability. Again, you don't have to have a Landcruiser. If you're talking about a Honda Civic where you have, I know Honda Civics because I've had 100 of them, but if you look at a Honda Civic, there's plenty of room in the trunk. Well, what do you use that for? Likely, you go to Home Depot, you buy a garden hose, some equipment, you go grocery shopping, but otherwise it's empty. Like, think about that. If it's empty, what can you put in it? Well, here's a good example of what I would recommend that you put in it. Now, you don't need to put a metal, this is a 5-gallon jerry can in the back of your Honda Civic, but put something like that. A while back on Fieldcraft Mobility, a budget build of doing a fuel capacity check on, I think it was a 15-gallon platform from Amazon with a prime pump where you could pump, I think, a gallon a minute is where we timed it at. So a bulb, a 15-gallon flat pack that is super solid, it's not going to leak, that you can keep in the back of your vehicle. Some people were super concerned about running that in the trunk. Well, I'll remind you, you run a 15 to 25-gallon fuel tank underneath your vehicle. So having it in the trunk and having it cinched down, which I recommend you do, is not a big deal. Remember, this fuel right here, even though this is only 5 gallons, is your capability. If you run out of gas, you have nowhere to go. So if you have to do one thing to increase your capability, get fuel on board in some form or fashion. This ARB swing out, this is divided, is the best setup because it's hydraulic, which means I'm not going to crush myself on uneven terrain when I'm opening and closing. It's super convenient, but super practical. Now, this is steel. That's a drawback. It's super heavy, but I like steel bumpers on the front and rear depending on where I live. If I lived in Florida and the worst thing I'm worried about hitting is a squirrel, then no harm, no foul. But if I live where I live in Utah, Colorado, Arizona even, and you're looking at big game, you will crush and destroy your vehicle by just hitting a white-tailed deer in the middle of the highway going 75 miles an hour. So look at that as a consideration. Guys, for the jerry can stuff, big shout out to locals.com. This is fieldcraftsurvival.locals.com, where we're going to do a premier breakout about jerry cans and the considerations for carrying your fuel on board. Guys, I wanted to give you an overview for the Landcruiser. I'm excited about building this out, but I want to motivate you to turn your everyday rig, your daily commuter, into a capable platform for bugging out and for recreation. I hope that helps. I hope you guys are getting something out of this and value add. I'll continue to do breakout videos and continue to evolve this into a complete build out over the winter and spring. Thanks, guys.